Hello there, I hope you're doing well. Thank you for tuning in with me today. This is DJ, and I'm here to share my thoughts, complaints, and tips with you after finishing the campaign and grinding my fair share in the First Descendant. It's highly unlikely, but for those of you who are unaware of this game, the First Descendant is a free to play third person PvE looter shooter developed and published by Naxxon. Now, some of you are going to immediately dismiss this game after hearing the name Naxxon, and I don't blame you at all. But if you give me an opportunity today, I might be able to change your mind to at least give this game a try. Before we begin, I just wanted to clarify one thing. The builds that you might see me using in this video are referenced from one of the top official content creators of the First Descendant, known as the Real Asian Robot. He is an amazing content creator and he does provide free-to-play builds and all sort of other guides for the First Descendant. Please do check out his channel, the link will be in the description. I'm not asked or incentivized to promote his channel in any way, he doesn't even know me. I find his videos to be really informative and just wanted to share that with you to help you out. Now with that out of the way, let's get started. This is the primary reason why I even bothered to play the game in the first place. The story progression at the end of the final beta had somewhat kept me a bit curious to see how the story would unfold. To be honest, I had a general assumption on story and specifically about one of the characters called Jeremy. I wanted to see if my assumptions about him were true or not, and funny enough, I was spot on. For the sake of leaving you spoiler free in case if you haven't played the game, I'll not discuss the story. What I will say is that after finishing the campaign, I would rate it slightly higher than average because I find some parts of the story to be quite decent, while others felt completely bland. It had the bare bones, but the writing, the execution, and character development left me frustrated at times, and they collectively screamed of mediocrity at best. My strong suggestion would be not to go in this game expecting an above average campaign. It's a very predictable story, and I wish they had introduced some unexpected twists and turns, but hilariously, even when they did, it was quite visible from miles away. I found the story to be quite bland at the early stages, and although it managed to get a bit interesting as the story progressed, it never really encouraged me to care for any of the characters in the game except for Bunny. I just played Bunny's Descendant quest and it's highly recommended one. I liked it way more than the main quest. It had a sad but yet a heartwarming conclusion with such a beautiful cutscene. We need more of this. With Freyna's backstory in Season 1 releasing on 29th August and many others to come in future, this is going to be one of my main interests in seasonal content. My general disconnect with the story may be a result of the poor dialogue delivery animation, where I couldn't find even a little bit of emotion on the character faces, which just threw me off the story time and time during cutscenes. It was as if the devs didn't put much thought into it, assuming that players would not be staring at Descendant faces but rather somewhere else for the majority of their playtime. Although I promise that I will not be spoiling the story for you, and I'll keep that promise, but I'll have to talk about a few characters in the game just to make sense of what I'm about to say, so please forgive me for that. Alpha is a poorly written character. The amount of stupidity that person showed as a leader of a group that is quote-unquote the last hope of humanity boiled my blood. Even Jeremy, a constant prick of a character, seemed more interesting when compared to Alpha. After playing Bunny's backstory side quest though, I did forgive him a little bit, but he has much to do as a leader of such an important group and live up to his role. Corel is your generic AI inspired villain. So far there is no backstory on him. All we know is that he wants to conquer Earth and kill all the humans. And I'm getting a vibe that very soon we'll come to know Corel is not the main villain of the First Descendant. With Amon seem to be taking center stage in Season 1, it will be interesting to see how the game is going to involve Corel in the story. Guide as a character got better as the story progressed, and by the end of the campaign was better suited to lead the Descendants rather than that sorry-ass idiot Alpha. But in terms of lore, it was quite surprising to me that despite Magisters having interest in the Iron Hearts and Guide basically being an AI integrated to the Iron Hearts, we never heard anything from the Magisters in regards to the Guide. Naturally, if I were one of the Magisters, I would definitely be interested to interact with the Guide. Moving forward, I would love to know more about the individual Magisters like Anais, their backstory and their motivation behind supporting the Descendants as the story progresses in future. Next up is level design. Credit is to be given where it's due, and I believe that the First Descendant devs did an amazing job with the world design of this game. It's a semi-open world divided into different zones, and each of these zones felt unique with their own flavor, such as Echo Swamp being a swamp area, Kingston being a habitable area with houses built, Fortress being completely filled with ice. Both the outdoor world and the indoor structures are beautifully crafted in this game that matches its fantasy theme. There's a little bit of platforming as well at times, which fortunately didn't feel overwhelmingly tedious, as I am particularly not a fan of it. But even though the level design is great, the world feels empty apart from the occasional encounters with those enemy patrolling units. I'll talk about this in a later section in this video, but for the time being, here's a food for thought to the people who have already played through the campaign or at least aware of it. What if Albion was a a flying fortress rather than a fixed location. Wouldn't it be awesome? It would probably fit right into the story given its fantasy world and the technology given by the Magisters. Karel has a ship of his own, so it's about time that we also get ours. Since the main story is not concluded yet, I think it may be an option for the devs to explore for future content. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments. Let's talk about the Descendants and how you will be able to play as one in the game. There are 15 base Descendants and 6 Ultimate Descendants in this game, with the Ultimate Descendants being the buffed up versions of the base Descendants. Frankly, I do not like this idea. The Ultimate Descendants would have been better to be the level 30, that is the highest level mastery rank for your individual Descendants. That would have incentivized players to invest time and resources into the base Descendants and get a sense of accomplishment when they would have reached the highest mastery level with the Descendant, thereby unlocking their ultimate versions. It would have been so nice to see your Descendants' armor getting upgraded and changed each time when you would ascend to a higher mastery level. But Nexon being Nexon decided to make a wallet grabber out of the Ultimate Descendants, specifically the female Descendants. Yes, of course you can grind everything in this game including the Ultimate Descendants, but the amount of frustration and despair that you're going to go through in that grind is what exactly Nexon wants you to feel, and hoping that you will give in to that temptation, and surely many will. I also honestly don't see the point in this mindless grinding if someone has the means to afford any Ultimate Descendant bundle. But ultimately it's your time and your money. Do what you want with it. For me personally, I would rather have as many Descendants as possible before going after any of the Ultimate Descendants. There are a few Descendants that are relatively very easy to get compared to other Descendants. I'll discuss about them in the tips and tricks section, so stay with me for a little bit longer. For the time being, let's take a look into what makes a Descendant, that is your Descendant reactor, modules, external components, guns, and gun modules. Let's go through the guns first. We have several gun classes in this game, along with the typical SMG, assault, shotgun, LMG, and sniper. We also have beam rifle, scout rifle, tactical rifle, handgun, hand cannon, launcher, etc. Guns range in variety from normal to rare to ultimate up to transcendent, although I haven't seen any transcendent guns in the game so far. Normal guns provide basic attributes, whereas rare and ultimate weapons provide additional sub-attributes, with ultimates also providing additional unique ability attributes. The guns also vary in ammo type, with general rounds, impact round, higher power rounds, etc. Gun modules are like attachments to your gun, which provides additional attributes such as weapon damage, crit rate, crit damage, weak point damage, etc. on top of your weapon's base damage. Similar to guns, gun modules also vary from normal to rare to ultimate up to transcendent. Individual module capacity depends on the proficiency of individual guns. You also have elemental modules that can be equipped to your gun. It comes really handy against Colossi battles, where you can use an element on your gun that the Colossi is super weak against and deal additional damage. Next comes your Descendant reactor, which is the primary source to buff your elemental powers. As of now, we have common, rare, and ultimate reactors available in the game. Common reactors provide skill power boost depending on your skill type, but they do not provide any additional skill power that the rare and the ultimate reactors do. Although ultimate reactors provide better skill power compared to rare reactors, I personally prefer to use the rare ones over the ultimates due to the reason that ultimate reactors require an ultimate weapon to be wielded by your Descendant at all times to get the additional boost. For the rare reactors, you just need to keep a particular weapon type in your loadout. Both rare and ultimate reactors also come with additional attributes that you should absolutely pay attention to. Also go to the Descendant page and learn what kind of reactor power does your Descendant uses. Apart from the 6 elemental powers that are fire, water, ice, electric, toxic, and void, your skills are also divided into 4 other categories that are singular, fusion, dimension, and tech. It may sound a lot right now, but after an hour or so, it'll start to make sense to you. So don't sweat over these too much in the early stages, but do try to understand them, as using the correct item in your loadout will significantly increases your power and survivability. Talking about survivability, your external components play a huge role in your Descendant survivability. There are 4 types of external components: auxiliary power, sensor, memory, and processor. All of these components come with HP or defense or shield as primary stats rolled on them. Although some Descendants like Kyle or Enzo benefit from shield, majority of the Descendants benefit from defense and HP. Bunny is one of those Descendants. She benefits mostly from defense followed by HP, but please refrain from stacking too much defense, as you will end up seeing diminishing returns. For normal mode content at the later stages, including bosses and colossi. A defense of around 14k with 4k plus HP is more than enough in my opinion, and you can easily achieve these numbers just by progressing through the campaign and farming a little bit in between. You may choose to totally ignore farming and just play the campaign, but keep in mind that the final 2 campaign boss difficulties do not scale similar to what you will be facing before them. So you may find yourself quite squishy and the experience could get a bit frustrating for you and the others that you matchmake with. So do optimize your build as you progress through the campaign. Speaking of optimizing your Descendant, we are left with one last part, that is your Descendant modules. Similar to gun modules, Descendant modules also vary from normal to rare to ultimate up to transcendent. Different modules have different costs, and the cost of individual modules increases as you upgrade them. Your Descendant modules mainly consist of elemental buffs and resistances, HP, shield and defense buffs, weak point buffs, skill crit rate and crit damage buffs, etc. As you can see, this bunny build is giving me pretty decent stats on my skill power, defense, HP, etc. without even using any optimization materials. This was quite easy to put together except for a few modules that I didn't have and had to grind for those a little bit. Now if you're wondering what are these optimization materials that I just mentioned about a few moments ago, let me explain. There are 2 types of items in the game that can be used to increase the module capacity and to optimize the cost of module slots for your Descendant as well as for your guns. These are your energy activators and crystallization catalysts respectively. Each energy activator adds additional 20 extra module capacity to your individual guns as well as Descendant, but these must be applied separately. If you don't have a specific Descendant called Enzo, some of the items required to craft energy activators and crystallization catalyst are difficult to grind, and you only get 2 of these energy activators and crystallization catalyst after finishing the campaign. I had said previously that I would rather have as many Descendants as possible before going for an ultimate Descendant, but when it comes to investing energy activators, I'd suggest anyone to go for the ultimate variant of that character if they can, as not only do the ultimate Descendants come with higher base stats, but they also come with 2 additional optimized slots. Plus there are transcendent mods that are exclusive to the ultimate Descendants. That's the reason why I didn't use any optimization material on my base bunny, because I wanted to get ultimate bunny. In case if you're wondering, the game takes base Descendants and their ultimate variants as separate entities. So any optimization material applied to your base Descendant will not carry over to your ultimate Descendant when you acquire them. In my humble opinion, that discourages players to invest in a base character because they can always grind for that ultimate variant. Same as the level design, this game really impressed me with its character and gun design. I'll divide this part into 2 categories. Let's take a look into the base designs and then we'll talk about store offerings. The First Descendant has mostly detail-packed character designs in terms of their base outfit and guns available in the game. The design choices fit right into the fantasy theme of this game, and to me they never felt out of place. The base costume designs for the female Descendants are fine and won't raise any eyebrows, unlike the ultimate variant costumes, which are borderline questionable. By the way, I heard some creators talking about the female Descendants wearing high heels. I mean, this is a video game in the first place, and to be specific, a fantasy video game. High heels look nice. What would you rather have them wear? Crocs? Let me be very clear about this. I am not supporting the aggressive monetization that has been implemented in this game. What ridiculed me is that they give you some free colors from the free rewards in the battle pass, but you can't use any of those colors on your Descendants base costumes. You will have to get a skin, or to be more specific, you will have to buy a skin from the store to use those colors. Apart from the below average looking skins for Lepic and VSR that you can get from the extra rewards in the battle pass, not a single Descendant skin has been given for free in this game so far, and there is no way to earn any in this game except for paying for them using your wallet. For the battle pass as well, you will have to pay for it almost every time because they give you less amount of premium currency in return than what you need to purchase the next battle pass. Amazing, right? Do I feel this is pay to win? Of course not. But this is some aggressive monetization practice that is in the longer run may hurt the game. Why? Because I don't see Nexon slowing down in such practices by any means. And looking at their glorious history with Maple Story, who knows, they might double down on such tactics to shill more money from players. If that's the case, then I fear that in future the only people who are going to keep playing this game are the whales, the try-hard grinders, and the content creators who will be making content out of it. I hope that I am utterly wrong in my assumption, but think for a moment what Nexon has to lose in this case. Even if FTC finds them guilty of any shady practices and they are fined about the same amount that they were fined previously for Maple Story, it won't put a slightest dent in their bank account. They might have made triple of that amount in the first 2 weeks of the game launch. But for the players, this could be really bad. Imagine Nexon suddenly shutting down the servers of the First Descendant and all your purchases and grinding materials are no more accessible. To me, that's scary. Now, I'm not saying that Nexon is going to do that, but their past endeavors and their aggressive monetization didn't give me much confidence on them. But for a moment, if I just leave the monetization aspect aside and look at the store offerings from just an artistic viewpoint, then I'll have to admit that there's a variety of amazing skin offerings in the store, although some design choices are borderline questionable, but I also understand why they were made in this way. Next up is objective design. This is something that has somewhat left me disappointed. During the final beta, I didn't mind it, hoping that there would be some new objectives introduced with the full game release, but I was wrong. It's the same shit for every level. Capture an objective or destroy objectives. Hack a console, do a platforming mission, or do a survey beacon mission and boss fight. This is also where it gets tiring for me to grind the same old things again and again. And the fact that the world of the First Descendant feels painfully empty to roam around with almost nothing happening around makes it even harder for me to stay motivated to roam and grind. Compare this to an immersive world of the Division where I feel like I'm encouraged and motivated to just roam around the world, listen to the interaction of the NPCs passing by and do random activities. There are repeated activities in those games as well, but the random NPC interaction and the dynamic nature of the world around me makes it worth my time exploring and doing those activities for hours without feeling bored. Next up is enemy level scaling. I'm going to divide this section into two parts as well, boss battles and colossi battles. Let's talk about the boss battles first. For boss battles, enemy difficulty level scaling is pretty linear in the game except for the final two boss battles, which are in my humble opinion going to feel significantly more difficult than the rest if you haven't put any thought into your build and are just jumping into those fights underprepared. These are really tanky bosses and they deal significant amount of damage. So if you're squishy in terms of your HP and defense, then you're probably going to struggle. So my one tip for you would be to spec for defense and HP as much as you can when you are progressing through the campaign. If possible, do a little bit of farming and be at the highest level of gear possible for those fights. Colossi battles were totally different from the boss battles and were exponentially more difficult than the average boss battles. These battles are presented to the player as intercept battles after completing the final boss battle of a zone to progress into the next part of the campaign. There are two difficulty modes for Colossi battles, normal and hard. During the campaign though, players are restricted to normal mode difficulty. The Colossi are either immune or weak against different element types, and you can check the recommended element resistance required against a Colossi in the detail page before you go for matchmaking. The initial 3 Colossi battles were pretty easy, but gate check appeared for me like many other players at Dead Ride. This battle will give you an actual idea of how good is your survivability in this game, so after getting decimated by this Colossi several times, I decided to look for a proper Descendant build and started learning the way I should build my Descendant. Players can either matchmake private or public for these intercept battles. My recommendation would be to go for public matchmaking, and if you are still struggling, ask for help in the world chat. There are so many amazing people out there willing to help others, so don't feel bad if you're stuck at any Colossi boss. It happens to almost everyone, just ask for help. Let's talk about community support, which has been a very positive experience for me in the First Descendant. Every day, players are farming together and helping each other out to clear difficult content. I received so much help from people in clearing those Colossi battles, as well as grinding for getting ultimate money. To all those lovely folks out there, guys, this is a shout out to you all for the kindness and love that you have shown to me, and thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Also, special thanks to Stimpy and Nick for being ever present in my recent streams, and Stimpy for also helping me out on my grind. All in all, this is an active and vibrant community with no shortage of help for new players. If you haven't given this game a try or thinking about doing so, please be assured that there will not be any shortage of community support. Just a quick tip, if you want to grind for a particular type of content and are looking for a group, it's always better to mention in wall chat and let people know what kind of content you are grinding for. By the way, stay away from those who are asking for money to boost players in the game and putting their Discord links. That's an outright scam. There is no trading system in the game currently, and people even in a party can't share items that they get as drops. Your drop rates and drop chances are your own. Nobody can influence that. If someone is claiming that, then either they are lying or they are hacking. So please use your brain and stay away from such people. The next topic that I wanted to discuss are about the things that I feel can be improved to improve the overall player experience in the First Descendant. So let's take a look at them in the following order. Number 1. Reducing the time duration for crafting enhancement materials. I am fine with the current crafting duration for Descendants and weapons, but for some enhancement materials, crafting duration are pretty high and could be lowered just a little bit to reduce those wait times. Number 2. Making the HUD customizable. Right now, we can either hide the entire UI or have to keep everything in it. Both options doesn't help players. On one hand, although having no information on the UI makes it look clean and beautiful, it gets difficult for players to know about Descendant HP and energy levels, and on the other hand, when you have everything on the UI, it's just cluttered. Give us customizable HUDs where players can turn on or off individual items available on the HUD. Even better if we can move the position of those individual items in the HUD and also change their respective size. Number 3, for the love of God, include a mark all as seen button in the inventory. It's a basic thing that's available in almost every game. It's super annoying when I dismantle items from my inventory and then a red dot pops up on top of my inventory list indicating there are new materials, but in reality those are just crafting materials and that red dot won't go away until I hover my cursor over those crafting materials in the inventory. Even now, just thinking about it gets me riled up. Please devs, make it happen. Number 4, give players the option to copy module sets from one setting to the other within a preset. This makes creating different settings for individual Descendants much easier compared to now where I have to manually assign each and every module again into slots when creating a new setting. Number 5, players should get warning message pop up if they are deleting a reactor which is being used on any of their Descendant preset. It gets super annoying when you accidentally delete a god rolled reactor of your inactive Descendant because you forgot to mark it as favorite. Number 6, during my playtime, guns stop shooting at times in random during fights. I haven't been able to figure out a particular reason behind it, but it has happened to me quite a few times and it's annoying. I'm hoping I'm not the only person having this issue, so I would appreciate a fix for this. Or maybe this is some game mechanic that I'm unaware of and right now I'm sounding like a moron to all the players who are already aware of it. Number 7, open world in the First Descendant feels real empty. I know for a fact that I'm not the only one talking about this because I have seen a few other creators also talk about this issue and I agree with them. It's super boring. There are no random events happening apart from those enemy patrols that are few and far in between. It's a shame because the First Descendant has beautifully crafted worlds, but due to the lack of engagement and incentive, players are currently not encouraged to explore them. Number 8, increase the current inventory capacity. It's very less. Right now in hard mode, after 2 to 3 runs at an outpost, my inventory is getting full. It happened to me the other day as well, and when I left the outpost and came back to Albion, the items that I couldn't pick up didn't arrive in my mailbox under lost and found. So I ended up losing on quite a bit of high tier loot. It can be easily resolved by automatically sending any ground loot within maybe 500 meters to a 1000 meter radius into our mailbox under lost and found if we haven't picked that up before moving away from the loot. Also include option in the lost and found to discard items individually or as a whole. Here's a workaround if the devs are not interested to increase the existing inventory capacity. Add an option to assign a minimum level for items to be sent in your active inventory. Anything below that level gets directly sent to your lost and found inventory. And then give us the option to dismantle individual items or all items from our lost and found inventory. The devs can also get creative and allow us to assign different filters that can applied for items to be collected in our active inventory. This can reduce the time players spend in between missions or farming just to clear the inventories so that they can get new items. Remove the limit on lost and found inventory capacity if there is any and make them available at the outposts. It's a win-win for both parties. Number 10, as discussed earlier, being a little bit less aggressive on the monetization could benefit the game to cement its longevity. This would increase the overall positive player sentiment for the game and would also encourage positive discussions among the players. This in turn may increase more player engagement, both old and new, which may eventually result in more monetary gain in the long run without putting a negative feeling regarding the monetization among the player base. Number 11, I'm quite disappointed with the lack of involvement of the other Descendants during the campaign. You are going to interact with a new Descendant in almost every zone or chapter, and yet your interaction with them is only limited to the start of a new chapter where they will fill you in on the current status and your objectives as you watch them talk very slow and get impatient. Other than that, you don't see their involvement in any other way. I mean, why on earth would you create such cool looking Descendants and then not even involve them in the campaign with at least cinematic cutscenes? Number 12, graphics are not up to the mark. If you look at the Descendant faces during actual gameplay, they appear to be soft and lack details even with highest visual settings enabled in the game. But it's quite funny that other parts of the Descendants' body didn't have the same issue, as if the devs prioritized something else over the Descendants' faces. You know if you know what I'm talking about. My humble suggestion would be to either fix it in the upcoming update or provide players with a good looking mask as compensation reward that can be used on any Descendant, and then voila, problem solved. Okay, before we conclude this video, I wanted to quickly share a few tips for solo casual players like me. After going through them, if you feel that I have missed anything important or if you have any other tips to share, please feel free to mention them in the comments. Number 1. If you are just after the campaign, pick Bunny as your main character as you will unlock her at the initial stages and go through the campaign. It will be much faster using Bunny except for the Colossi battles. Number 2. Don't worry about upgrading guns or reactors in the earlier stages. Why? You will keep getting them as you progress through the campaign, and even if you get an item with god roll attributes until and unless it's of the highest level, that is level 100, it won't matter. Point number 3. Don't waste crafting material upgrading each and every gun. Why? Same as reactors. Even if you get an item with god roll attributes until and unless it's of the highest level, that is currently level 100, it won't matter because when you upgrade a gun, its substat values don't update. So you are basically stuck with a level 20 substats on a level 100 gun that you just upgraded using enhancement materials. That is different with ultimate weapons though. Keep upgrading them, and if you happen to get more than one of the same ultimate weapons, do use the lower level one to enhance the unique ability of the higher level one. Thunder Cage is a wonderful weapon for Bunny in general. You will unlock it within the first few hours of the game depending on how fast you are progressing. It's a wonderful weapon that can be paired effectively with almost any Descendant, and it will take you comfortably through the entire game and not just a campaign. It's very easy to farm as well, so do get 4 copies of the Thunder Cage and max out its unique ability as soon as you can. You'll thank me later. A few other weapons that I really like during my playtime, and I feel those are really going to serve you as well. Number 1, Eternal Power, which is an AR with really high base damage. Next up is Nezistra's Devotion. This is an ultimate hand cannon with high DPS. Build this around weak point damage. This gun debuffs your enemies, so it comes really handy against bosses and colossi. Next up is Tamer, an LMG widely known as boss killer. This is one of the highest DPS weapon in the game. Number 4, Craig's Reverse Fate. This weapon got a lot of buff and currently one of the top tier weapons in the game. I'm yet to grind for 3 more copies of it to max out its unique ability, so stay tuned for more updates. Look for damage against Colossi attribute in your guns and energy activators. The higher the numbers, the better when used in Colossi battle. Build into defense and HP. Why? It will help you to survive higher level bosses in Colossi battles. How you can do that? Just pay attention to which external components you are using. Next up is General Guide to using modules. More modules doesn't mean better stats. Quality is always over quantity. A level 1 increased HP module may cost less than a same level 2 mod, but you will have less HP on your Descendant. Look for a few guides on YouTube and you will have a general idea on how to spec your Descendant modules, reactors, external components, etc. The same rule goes for reactors. Ultimate is not always better than Epic. Pay attention to Descendant skill types when choosing reactors and also when going for Colossi battles. Number 9. Don't feel shy to ask for help if you're stuck in Colossi battles, and also to watch a few videos on YouTube. Number 10, even though I suggested to grind a little bit here and there just to get decent items on your Descendant, don't get over fixated about grinding materials before you finish the campaign. The reason why is the drop rates are lower in normal difficulty, and also when you finish campaign and reach harder difficulty, none of those old gears are going to matter, and enemies are generally going to drop significantly better rewards in higher difficulty. But there are a few exceptions. Make sure that you are farming for Kuiper shards and gold. Why? Because Kuiper shards are essential to upgrade modules, and gold is essential in crafting materials and upgrading your modules as well. Number 12, don't invest your energy modules in guns or characters before you have finished your campaign, in case if you are not sure that you 100% want to main that particular character or that particular gun. The reason why is campaign can be finished without investing any of those optimization materials. The game gives you 2 energy activators and 2 crystallization catalysts as you progress through the campaign. It typically takes a lot of time to farm for materials to craft energy activators. As I told you before, base and ultimate versions of Descendants are considered as different characters. So if you invest energy modules and capacitors in a base character, it won't carry over to its ultimate version when you get one. Number 13, make sure to collect the free rewards as you level up your battle pass. This is just a reminder, as sometimes we just tend to forget to collect those rewards. And also, this is not like other battle passes, so you will have to keep buying the battle pass almost every season. Number 14, try to unlock as many Descendants as you can. The more Descendants that you have, the easier for you to reach higher mastery rank. Increasing your weapon proficiency is going to play a huge part in upgrading to higher mastery ranks. Your Descendants max level is 40, so after you have reached the level with one Descendant, mastery points that you get from that particular Descendant reduces significantly. With higher mastery ranks, you can get more inventory and module capacity. You will also get higher storage capacity. There are a few Descendants in the game that are, in my opinion, are easy to get compared to other Descendants. They are, number 1, Sharon, an electric type assassin. assassin who uses stealth. Number 2, Blair, a fire-type descendant who can deal a lot of AoE damage, and Freyna, a poison-type descendant who can deal a lot of AoE damage as well. All three of these descendants' crafting equipments are tied to story missions. They have generous drop rates, but you may have to grind those missions a few times. But compared to the grind that you will end up doing for other descendants, these are going to be much easier. Plus, you don't have to craft those individual materials unlike for other descendants. It'll save you a ton of time. If you are thinking about unlocking any of the ultimate descendants and want to ease up that farming process, then I'll highly recommend you to unlock Sharon and Enzo. Unlocking Sharon is easier than compared to Enzo, but Enzo is worth every bit of that grind because he makes opening those tricky encrypted vaults a cakewalk. You will also get more number of items from those vaults when using Enzo, and you will also have the chance to get transcendent modules for Enzo from those vaults. If you have the time and patience, do unlock Sharon and Enzo. They will make your life much easier in the First Descendant. Number 15. Getting your first ultimate descendant. Some of the materials you will collect as you progress through the campaign, and some you will have to specifically grind for. You will need a good build to grind in the harder difficulty because the drop rates are higher in the harder difficulty, so you will have better chance in getting materials like your ultimate descendant code, stabilizer, etc. Having Enzo and Sharon makes it relatively quite easy to grind a few specific materials. And finally, don't get frustrated if you are not getting a particular drop. Plan your farming in an optimized way, or just leave the game for an hour or two or a day and then come back later. If I leave aside Nexon's aggressive monetization approach, this game is fairly enjoyable to hop in for hours and have a good time running around, doing objectives, jumping and killing waves of enemies with your descendants. And on top of it, unlocking your first ultimate descendant is going to feel special. This is a looter shooter, and grinding is going to be a part of it whether someone likes it or not. Although in my experience I have found the drop rates to be fairly generous, people have had bad experiences in their grinds as there is no guarantee that one would be getting anything worth of the hours invested into the game. Thankfully, the director of the First Descendant did address this issue in their patch note 1.0.5, and he stated that they were aware of the player struggles and were looking to introduce a new system where players could more easily get the item they wanted after repeating an activity a certain number of times. This is indeed a great news for the casual players like me who can't dedicate many hours on a daily basis in this game for various reasons, of course. After grinding a decent amount of time in the hard mode difficulty, I'm kinda liking it more than the normal mode because of the added difficulty and better loot. For what it's worth, I find this game to be fun enough to just mess around after a tiring day. Play some music, run around with Bunny, get some loot here and there, and just chill. And after getting Ultimate Bunny, I would like to take my time and invest in building her as a viable endgame character. For the time being, I can certainly overlook the microtransaction and just have fun. And when I won't anymore, I'll simply uninstall this game and move on. It's that simple. It's just a game. Don't allow it to become your whole identity that some people tend to do. With that thought, I'll take my leave for today. I hope you have found this video worthy of a like. I also believe in the fact that trust is earned and not given. So if I have been successful in gaining a little bit of your trust as a content creator, then please consider subscribing to my channel. It would mean a world to me. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you in the next one. Take care, much love, and peace.